20 points. Tyrone are through to the Ulster Senior Football Championship semi-finals. They have come through Cavan by 7 points. This is the match reaction. We're going to be breaking down the game, discussing the game in more detail, and discussing what was, I suppose, in the end, pretty much a formality, really, for Tyrone. Very comfortable win. Easy win in the end. Cavan certainly had their moments in the match, especially towards the end. They made the game a bit more of a fight. They made the game a little bit more interesting going down the home stretch. But it was very, very comfortable for Tyrone in the end. They were leading by, 10 points at halftime. There was different stages in this game where they led very, very comfortably. I think at one stage they led by 11 or 12. And it was comfortable, very, very comfortable. And look, to be fair, given Tyrone's progress this year under Malachy O'Rourke, which I think we have seen throughout the league, yes, they did get relegated, but as it's been very well documented, I mean, being relegated with 7 points in the Alliance National Football League, I mean, where else do you see that? Where else do you hear that? It's kind of bizarre. But look, they were very, very good in this game. Darren McCurry was absolutely outstanding. Some of the points he kicked were absolutely brilliant. I thought Kieran McGeary looked back to his best as well. One of his, he's kind of fallen off the boil really since 2021 a little bit, but that was certainly him back to his best in my opinion. Rory Cavan very lively as well, and of course a brilliant goal from Con Kilpatrick towards the end. But it was very, very, very well-rounded performance from Tyrone. They sort of put the game to bed early, I would say. And although Cavan kicked a couple of 2-pointers in the second half and maybe had a couple of chances. I think they got it down to 6. They probably had a couple of chances to make it, a 3, maybe 4-point game at one stage, but wasn't meant to be. Look, Darren McVeety, very good for Cavan. Couple of brilliant 2-pointers from him in the game. Sean McAvoy with some bright sparks as well. But yeah, overall, look, it was, I mean, you were kind of hoping for a more competitive game. You were hoping for the game to be like what it was like last year, where it was very, very exciting. But I think Tyrone have improved significantly since then, and we saw that in this game. They were very, very good, and probably still have another gear to go up on. Probably still have another level that they feel they can go up on. Maybe it'll be parts of the second half performance that that they will look back on with a little bit of thinking. Maybe we should have done a little bit better there. Noah Morgan was excellent on kick-outs thrown. We're winning the majority of their breaking balls as well. The amount of breaking balls that they were winning. Just winning those 50-50s. Midfield was outstanding as well from both Brian Kennedy and Con Kilpatrick. That's been a very kind of tested midfield pair. And Colin McShane had some bright moments. Kieran Daly as well. Michael McKernan was getting into some advanced positions. Maybe could have ended up with a few more points than he did. But it was comfortable. It was comfortable from Tyrone. And look, Armagh obviously to come now in the Ulster semi-finals. What a game obviously that's going to propose to be, as it so often is between Tyrone and Armagh. But comfortable, very, very comfortable in the end from a Tyrone perspective. Look, for Cavan, I mean, they'll be disappointed with their first half performance. I thought they were just a little bit flat to begin with. In the opening couple of 5 or 10 minutes, they had a couple of chances. It was only kind of, it was level really at that stage, but it was probably from about the 7th or 8th minute onwards that Tyrone really, really kicked on, and Cavan just couldn't get into the game at all. And I felt like anytime Cavan were getting into those positions, they wouldn't shoot. It felt like they were trying, they were rarely kind of kicking the ball inside. They started doing it a lot more in the second half, but in the first half, it felt like they were just trying to run the ball through, and they were trying to work a score rather than, trying to pick out Sean McAvoy or something of that nature. And Tyrone were just able to pull away really. Like, even looking at it here from the 22nd minute right until half time, they outscore Cavan by about 8 points to 1 at that stage. So it was always going to be a tough ask for Cavan to try and turn it around from there. In the second half, I mean, they were trying to work 2-pointers probably a bit too much at times, hitting chances wide. They had a good kind of flurry in the final 20 minutes with the likes of Oisin Kern and Darren McVeety getting a couple of 2-pointers. But all in all, the damage was done on Tyrone, where Tyrone were comfortable at that stage. And yeah, look, I mean, it was one of those games you expected Tyrone to win it. I like a lot of the games this weekend. And we will review the games tomorrow in more detail. But you expected Tyrone to win this game, and they did, to be fair. And they had some moments maybe where Cavan looked like they were going to come back into it, but they were brilliant in the first half. Darren McCurry, as I said, like, what a footballer he is. Some of the points he was kicking was absolutely sensational. And it was just a brilliant performance all around from a Tyrone perspective. For Cavan, I think it was just that start of the game. It was just that sort of second quarter, the second half of the first half, if that makes sense, that they kind of fell apart a little bit and Tyrone were able to build up too much of a lead. But look, Cavan more or less guaranteed to be in the All-Ireland series, so we'll see how they obviously get on in the group stages. And Tyrone, Armagh, I mean, what a game that obviously poses to be as well in the Ulster semi-finals. Absolutely buzzing for that game, in my opinion. Tom says Cavan were shocking. First half game was over. And Mikey says, Monaghan aside, there's still a big gulf between Division 1 and Division 2 teams. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, even when you look at Cork playing Limerick last week as well, there is kind of a big gulf between even Division 2 and Division 4 teams. However, in saying that, I mean, Wicklow gave the Dubs a right good go today, and look at the gap that's between them. So, yeah, there probably is a bit of a gap there. And I think we saw that today. Tyrone were just very, very comfortable. And it was disappointing watching at times because it just, this was the game that was on free-to-air television. Obviously, we had Kildare Westmeath on GA Plus yesterday, which, to be fair, was a cracking game in itself. I couldn't get GA Plus to work until about the final 20 minutes. But anyway, that's a story for another day. But that was a cracking game. But it just was disappointing. Like, this was the game that we all tuned into. And, you're hearing what's happening between Meath and Offaly. And look, I understand why they showed this game. Tyrone and Cavan are two mad footballing counties. There's obviously a rivalry there. It was a cracking game last year. But it was probably over at half time, really. And look, obviously with the new rules, you always think maybe another team can get a jump on another team and maybe Cavan can pull it back. And they had moments where, as I said, with about 15 minutes to go, there was only about 6 in it, and you were thinking, maybe Cavan could do something here. But once Con Kilpatrick got that goal, then that was it. That was it, done and dusted, really. And yeah, just very, very flat from the outset, really, from a Cavan perspective. But look, fair play to Tyrone, fair play to the Red Hand. They get the job done, they get the win. Do let me know in the comments your thoughts, your opinions on the game. Man of the match for me, I'm going to go with Kieran McGeary. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Some of the points in the first half were outstanding. You can look towards Darren McCurry as well, who was very, very lively, it must be said. And had a cracker game as well, obviously with 7 points. Darren McVitie, very good from a Cavan perspective. But yeah, Tyrone get the victory, 124 to 20 points. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments down below. We will be dropping a review show tomorrow at some point to review the games. Dublin Wicklow turned out to be a much closer game than many people expected. I wasn't at the game, unfortunately. I was meant to go, but unfortunately I couldn't go due to a bit of a family emergency. But all is good there, to be fair. And all is good with the Dubs. Kind of won the game, but not overly brilliant. Was listening to it on the radio. And yeah, it was definitely a lot closer than people expected. Fair play to Wicklow. We'll be discussing Antrim Armagh as well. Antrim certainly gave that a good rattle. Kildare Westmeath, Meath Offaly, Loud Leash as well. So plenty of games there. Jarlath does says here, why do you think Cavan had such a strong second half? Yeah, maybe to finish up on that, I think it was a mix of two things. I think Cavan, they couldn't really get any worse, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, they kicked 4 points in the first half. They were really, really poor, and they were all over the place. And I think with Tyrone as well, there was an element of the game being done and dusted. They probably dropped off a little bit. Cavan started winning a few more breaking balls, and they started picking. To be fair, Derek McVitie started getting into some great positions where he could kick 2-pointers. But like the damage was kind of done really from that point. But yeah, sure. Look, let us know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments down below, and we'll see you all later.